Biggie Smalls, Biggie, the notorious B.I.G, Frank White, King of New York, whatever you want to call him. I'll go by Biggie. One question that's come up is, can Biggie be top 5 dead or alive with just 2 albums? I've seen a lot of dudes put Biggie in their top 5s like crazy. I've seen some dudes go as far to say he was the greatest of all time. Question is, can he really be top 5 with just 2 albums? It's such a short discography. Now let's look at some of the work Biggie has done when he was alive. Though he had 2 albums, he technically had about 4 albums worth of work. Life After Death was 2 albums. In late 94 to 95, he released 5 songs on Conspiracy, B-sides like Dreams / Just Playing, Who Shot Ya, One More Chance Remix, and the Real Niggas Do Real Things freestyle. That is 9, that's a whole album right there. And then for the few people who heard the song with Tupac and Biggie running from the police, that's not a Biggie song, you know. Still big features, did a ton of features in 95. Fam, do you guys realize that Biggie made a song with he made one song with R. Kelly and one song with Michael Jackson in the same year. And then he had that killer verse on Total's Can't You See? He was on the points with Redman, Bone Thugs, Busta Rhymes, Coolio, and others. He was big in 95. So, and Ready to Die, bro. Do you guys realize that's 4 albums worth of work right there he did, technically speaking? Oh, yeah, late 94, 95, when he released some B-sides and the stuff with Junior Mafia, that's an album's worth of work right there. I remember Illmatic was only 9 songs, and it came out in 1994, so yeah. In my opinion, Biggie was Rapper of the Year in 1995 and 1997. 95, I'd say, was one of the most debatable years. I hear some people throw Tupac was Rapper of the Year for 1995. I've heard people say Prodigy was Rapper of the Year in 1995. I've heard a 1-2 argument for Raekwon. I've heard a 1-2 argument for GZA. And I've even heard a ton of arguments for Big L, believe it or not. But I'd go Biggie. Like what I mentioned, I'd go Biggie. Pure bangers, great features. I thought it was a mistake not to make an album 95. And was close second runner-up in 1994. Nas was Rapper of the Year for 1994. Biggie was close second, no questions asked. But tell me, you guys, who do you think was Best Rapper of the Year for 1995? Was declared the King of New York for 1995 and 1997. 94, 97, what a time period. That was straight Pac and Biggie era. Nas and Biggie ruling New York era. 94, Nas was considered the King of New York. 95, Biggie was considered the King of New York. 96 went back to Nas. 97 went back to Biggie, but he didn't get to enjoy all of it because he died. But his music was still running New York during that time period. So yeah, and I'd say in 95 and 97, not only was he the King of New York, he was running rap, period. Some would argue that Biggie was running rap that Tupac was running rap in 1995, but it was definitely Biggie. Tupac was close, but it was definitely Biggie. 95 was Pac and Biggie, but if I have to go at one, definitely got to be Biggie. And last but not least, killer features. Like I said, he was featured on an R. Kelly song, then he was featured on a Michael Jackson song in 1995 in the same year. That was huge. He destroyed Flavor in Your Ear, made everybody forget about Craig Mack's solo version, R.I.P. And when it comes to top 5 Track killers, Biggie's definitely up there. But back to the whole question. Can Biggie be top five or the greatest with only two albums, even though it's like four albums worth of work? No. No, he can't. First problem, he did not even get a chance to fall off yet. Biggie died on top. So did Biggie get a chance to fall off? No, don't get me wrong. There are some rappers who fall off during their second album, but look, bro, this is mid 1990s, bro. That wasn't common, especially for a man of a killer album like Biggie did. Nah, it just wasn't common during that time period for great rappers to fall off on their second album. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some rappers who had disappointing second albums like Big Pun, Big L. And another reason why you can't consider Biggie the GOAT, I've actually seen some 50-50 arguments on Life After Death. There's some who say it's a classic, some who say it wasn't a classic, and then there's some who say it was good but not a classic, and there's some who say it was flat disappointing. Some argue that Life After Death was Puffy living vicariously through Biggie because they made it more R&B and commercial, and he didn't do any of the funk or the yelling type of rapping. You know, when you see how he raps on "Give Me the Loot," "Ready to Die," the song, and "Machine Gun Funk," he did none of that type of rapping on Life After Death, which some people had a problem with. And people just felt that Biggie wasn't emceeing as much as he did on Ready to Die. So people made a big argument about that. See, let's say if he made a second album in 1995 and still had Life After Death, still, no, again, he didn't get a chance to fall off. Like, let's look at Jay-Z. Could Jay-Z be top five after his third album? Hell friggin' no. Jay-Z was starting to get brought up in top five conversations around the Blueprint era. I mean, yeah, you could say Eminem hit legendary status in 2002 because some people consider Slim Shady LP his first album, Marshall Mathers LP is his second, and Eminem Show his third. But here's the problem. It was the 8 Mile soundtrack that made Eminem truly hit legendary status. And also, too, he did have in my opinion, a top 10 diss track for Benzino. And you got to remember, really and truly, Eminem's first album was Infinite in 1996. So, yeah, he had those three hot albums, but he hit legendary status on his soundtrack when he made more songs, and after he made the diss track, and he had Infinite. So he technically speaking had a full body of work. So yeah. Who else is there? Tupac, he started to really pop off with his third album. See, one thing I've learned from a lot of older heads is Tupac before 1994 and up and before 1995, he wasn't popping like that. He had buzz, but he wasn't the top rapper in 1991. You gotta look at Tupacalypse now. Like, Tupac's first two albums, people don't talk as much as Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me, the 7-Day Theory, Don Illuminati album. His first songs people don't talk as much about. As a matter of fact, I've met some people who didn't even know Strictly for My Niggas came out. Unpopular opinion, I thought it was a borderline classic. But yeah, a lot of people didn't care for that album. And Tupacalypse Now, a lot of people didn't care for that album either. And you got to remember also too, with your first breakout song being Brenda's Got a Baby, great song, but it's very depressing. So good way to start, not a great way to last. So it was Tupac's third album he really popped off. So ain't no way Tupac with Tupac Ups Down Straight for My Niggas could have been talked about the same way Biggie did. He's his first two albums. Had Nas died after it was written, he would have been talked about like that. Had Big Daddy Kane and Rakim died after their second albums, they would have been talked about like that. Had KRS-One died after his second album, I kind of think he'd be in the Big L category because truthfully, I don't think Big KRS-One truly hit legendary status as great as Criminal Minded was. I felt it was 1993 to 95. Some even argue 97 when KRS-One truly hit legendary status. Like, okay, let's say who's better between Big Daddy Kane was KRS-One. I felt KRS-One didn't surpass Big Daddy Kane until about 1993. So let's say if KRS-One died after his second album, would he be talked about his first album? Yeah, but his second album, not so much. Not. I thought it was a great album. Don't get me wrong, kind of underrated a little bit, but it just didn't have the hits the way Criminal Minded did. It really didn't. But yeah, like let's look at a lot of rappers. If they died after their second albums, would they be considered top five the way Biggie is to many people? Not really. Oh, here's a one more example I gotta throw in there. Let's say if LL Cool J died after Bigger and Deffer, would he even talk about like that? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Because rap was still in its early stage developing, many people considered LL Cool J the GOAT when Bigger and Deffer came out. But yeah, Biggie made a big impact with two albums. One of the best-selling rappers in history. Biggie's Life After Death album is top 5 best-selling hip-hop albums in history. Ready to Die sold a ton. I once read a rumor that Biggie, I mean, Puffy said how he felt had Biggie not died, it probably would have sold more. I don't know, who knows, but I do feel album would have sold regardless had Biggie died or not. But again, Biggie can't be top 5 dead or alive. He didn't have a chance to fall off. Not even fair to say. Because, okay, let's look at Nas, for example, as he continued his career. First two albums, great streak. I Am album, serious mixed reviews. Personally, my favorite Nas album. Love the album. Won't say it's a classic, but I love the album. Nostradamus, epic doo-doo. And then Jay-Z made a comment saying fell from top 10 to not mention at all. And there's some people who kind of argue saying that's true. So it makes me question this. Fell from top 10 to not mention at all. How do you fall when people consider Biggie top 5 dead or alive or the greatest and he only had 2 albums? That's an example of it's not fair to say he's top 5 when he didn't have a chance to fall off. They said Nas went from top 10 to not mention at all after he dropped I Am and Nostradamus. As time has went by, a lot more people have said, okay, maybe it wasn't as bad as it sounded, but Nostradamus was epic doo-doo. So just imagine Nas died after it was written. People say he's the greatest of all time. And they had no idea that his next 2 albums were not going to be the classics. The first 2 albums were. I'll give you a better example. Imagine if the guy, Big Daddy Kane, the same guy who Biggie said, Big Daddy Kane is the original B.I.G. Like Biggie, he got his style from Big Daddy Kane. You listen to what's it called? It's called Big Papa. You can hear a lot of Kane style within his rap. And worse too, Big Daddy Kane put Biggie and Tupac on his show in their early days. Well, more Biggie's early days because Pac was working on his third album during that time period. But yeah, Imagine Big Daddy Kane died after It's a Big Daddy thing, and people considered him the greatest rapper of all time, not knowing right after that album his career was going to go downhill and never come back up the same way. So just imagine Big Daddy Kane died after his second album. And in my opinion, best rappers of the 80s, for me, had to have been Rakim and Big Daddy Kane. LL Cool J was third. Some people say LL Cool J. I don't agree. Some people say Melly Mel. I personally don't agree. Maybe even an argument for KRS One, but I don't see a lot of people picking for number one of the 80s. Definitely put them in the top five. I probably even see an argument for Chuck D. But imagine if people said Big Daddy Kane after he died, after It's a Big Daddy thing, his second album, and people would have no idea his career would go downhill. So how do we know how Biggie's career would have truly panned out after his death? How do we not know? People have said, man, I don't fuck with Biggie no more. He's not the same. That happens all the time. It happened to Nas. It happened to Kane. So how do you know it wouldn't have happened to Biggie? Let's look at LL Cool J. He had a great career after his second album, Bigger and Deffer. But look how people bashed his third album, Walking with a Panther. Look how people were starting to bash him in 1995 when he was starting making more songs with the girls and not really checking for LL Cool J like that. And look, I remember hearing several niggas say, oh, LL Cool J went down on the list because he made all those girly songs. You know how many times I've heard that? So again, how can Biggie be top five if he didn't get a chance to go down on the list? I've heard the same argument from Big Daddy Kane saying after his second album, he went down on the list. I've heard the same argument for DMX. After his third album, sorry, tapping the soul throat. After his third album, his career went down the toilet. That crack just caught up to him. I've heard people say his career, he went down on the list because he fell off after his third album. So Biggie didn't get a chance to go down on the list or fall off for people to say, I don't fuck with Big no more because who knows? What if Biggie went the LL Cool J route? What if Biggie went the Big Daddy Kane route? What if Biggie had the little Nas route where people accuse him of falling off only to come back up stronger than ever with Stillmatic and God's Son? Or what about Jay-Z's friend Jay-Z? Did Jay-Z fall off? I don't think so. But his comeback album, Kingdom Come, after coming out of retirement, was not well received. So what if Biggie were to get that had he been alive? And plus two, Biggie had retiring plan in 2000. So how do we know? Let's say his retirement album would have, let's say it was a disappointment, and people say, nah, B, you can't go out like that. As I've read, Biggie was a guy, he had a ton of plans. And let's say if he tried something different and it just failed. So, final conclusion, no, Biggie cannot be the greatest top five because he didn't get a chance to fall off. Give me your feedback and tell me your thoughts.